Hey everybody, this is Professor Lilly, and I want to talk to you about week 3, which I have titled Defining Popular Culture or Pop Culture Part 2. And for this week, I've decided to focus on monster theory, which for a number of years now, so when I started designing this course last year, I was looking at other undergraduate courses in popular culture. And monster theory is becoming more and more popular in terms of a way to introduce students to a strategy. And there's many strategies, but one strategy for being able to analyze a lot of popular culture texts. Um, Science fiction and fantasy have really become one of the most popular genres in terms of books and television series and films in the last, I'd say, 40 years or so. To the point where if you're going to look at Netflix or Hulu, a lot of the offerings that you would find would be science fiction and or fantasy. And therefore, monster theory becomes a great tool for at least starting to think about how I could understand this particular science fiction or fantasy book, movie, or television series. So, and there's a book here that I decided not to make you read, where that really has the main essay that describes monster theory. And monster theory has 7 theses, and I found a great lecture series on YouTube. So this is the YouTube series that you are asked to um, watch, and altogether, I'd say
Now,
it's
first,
about.
what does monster mean? The definition from Merriam-Webster Dictionary is right here. You can see that.
It takes about 40 minutes to watch all 3 parts, and it's just really well put together. So it's basically a professor talking over a PowerPoint presentation, and it gets into all 7 of the theses and has lots of really good examples. So looking here, I can see that The Silence of the Lambs, popular movie um, with Hannibal Lecter, or several movies. So that's right here, and that's included under pre-reading. And again, most of the weeks where you have any reading, it lists the readings for that week as pre-reading. Just acknowledging the fact that this is an asynchronous course, and if you have time on the weekend or even the week before, you can do the reading and jot down notes, and then you'll be prepared for the next week, which means that you wouldn't have to do the readings that week, right? So just giving you the opportunity. And so you have the 3 part lecture series on YouTube, and then you have this article that's in here as well called "Dinosaurs Are Us," where an author uses the monster theory to kind of analyze the first Jurassic Park movie in several ways. So it's just giving you a good application of it. And both of these, the lecture series and the article here are needed to do the quiz. So this Monsters and Dinosaurs quiz you can do anytime between now and next Sunday. It's okay if you use notes. You're only going to get one chance at it, one attempt, and so again, take notes when you're watching the lecture series and when you're reading "Dinosaurs Are Us." Um, you cannot be actually referring to the text. Um, so actually looking at the lecture series or the "Dinosaurs Are Us" for the quiz, but you can have notes and that's fine. And then the more kind of substantial assignment for the week is similar to last week in that we have a discussion forum here, and you need to look at the prompts and post basically a short essay. It's an informal essay, so I'm not looking so much at sentence construction or paragraph construction. I'm looking more at like what you're actually saying is the more important aspect in terms of grading. And just to let you know, in terms of grading for this, I'm combining the discussion forum post from last week and doing the follow-ups or the posting replies to other people, and then this one together are one grade. Sorry if you can hear my dog. barking in the background. He gets triggered easily. Um, and and now that I'm thinking about my dog, I just want to mention that in terms of a snow day policy, in this class there's no snow day policy. So most of you know, so I'm doing this on Saturday night, and there's supposed to be a lot of snow here in Maryland tomorrow and or Monday. And even if Loyola says on campus is canceled or whatever, it does not impact this course at all. If you need like a snow day, like a mental snow day, then take a snow day because you have um, your own schedule in terms of when you're going to do the work for this course. If for some reason you get really sick, then certainly let me know. Like sick to the point where you can't do work, then let me know. But in general, there's no kind of snow day or any kind of issue with this course, obviously, since it's all online. Okay, so again, this is the main assignment. You're going to create a short essay and post it to the discussion forum. And what the essay is asking you to do is to choose a monster from popular culture. Okay. And before I get into the nitty gritty, you might be kind of freaking out and be like, "Whoa, what monsters he talk about?" Well, there's so many monsters, right? In books, there's lots of monsters in Harry Potter books, lots of fantasy books, lots of TV series and movies. Obviously, like for Frankenstein, if you've never read the book or you're not that interested or you never watched the older movies, there's still lots of newer titles. So like Penny Dreadful, for example, is a series that I watched I think last year with my wife, and it gets into lots of different monsters. But one of the monsters they do have in there is the Frankenstein monster. They also have the Frankenstein Chronicles. I haven't watched that. Sometimes like Hotel Transylvania is a cartoon series. It might be kind of more difficult to use that as an example because it's comedy. So it might not make it that difficult. And let's see, let me go back here. So it might be good here to pause and just talk a little bit about Frankenstein as a example because some of you might be more familiar with it. You might have had courses in high school or Loyola already that talked about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And let me play just like 20 seconds.
Revolutionary in its depiction of science and religion and served as a pioneer text in the sci-fi genre. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. On the surface, it's a novel about a scary monster, but her sympathetic description of a soulful creature makes us rethink who we label as the monster. I'm Dr. Emily Zarka, and this is Monstrum. Remember, this is not Frankenstein. This is. Although Shelley's character was not a doctor of any kind, he never actually even finished his university studies.
One man crazy, three very sane spectators.
I've decided to refer to him as Dr. Frankenstein, as he was first called in the 1931 movie, to emphasize the distinction between him and his creation. Dr. Frankenstein was the scientist who created the nameless creature. Boris Karloff's depiction of a tall, shambling, mute man with bolts sticking out of his neck has become the classic image of the monster. But Shelley's original description is actually much more macabre. Shelley writes, quote, "His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of a pearly whiteness, his watery eyes, his shriveled complexion."
Okay, so Frankenstein is a good example, like I said, because a lot of you are familiar with the story and the monster, and because a lot of people have written about how the monster really represents aspects of his inventor, right, and of what his inventor, Dr. Frankenstein, represents in terms of science and technology. So the monster representing how science and technology have a really dark side and can go too far. And the cultural context of when she's writing this book are in a period where there have been like the U.S. Civil War would have been a couple decades before that, and wars are becoming more and more destructive. We have and technology is part of that aspect. The second industrial revolution is in the full swing, and there's lots of negative like downsides, like cities becoming completely polluted and disgusting because of all the industrial pollution, and certainly the impact that that has on the poor people who are working in those factories, and people kind of starting to think about what are the negative and the downsides of all this progress in science and technology. And so the Frankenstein monster really representing that, and the dark side of like I said, his inventor who's going way too far in using the technology. There's a lot of other potentials that you monsters that you could go for. Like I said, I already talked about vampires, um, the Mummy, and the Mummy has been in lots of different movies, lots of different types of mummies, TV shows, and books as well. Um, the Wolfman, or werewolves, also a great one. Lots of movies and books for the werewolves. We have brains in terms of like separated from the body and going crazy. We have several different aspects of. Let's see if we scroll down. Oh, I didn't think about animals. Okay, so you're going to read the essay "Dinosaurs Are Us" from Jurassic Park. So we have dinosaurs as animals, and what they would represent in those particular um, depictions. We have maniacs and as monsters like human maniacs and half human maniacs, as well as aliens. Um, so there's lots of different possibilities. Godzilla, Planet of the Apes, all sorts of examples that you could possibly choose. If you're having a difficulty, ghosts, of thinking about a type of monster to choose, then send me an email, and I can help you to choose. So send me an email saying here's some ideas that I had, and I'll help you to pick some. And again, the looking at the context of like what popular culture texts that they have been in before does not need to be exhaustive. You can focus on just a few and spend a little time doing some research. But again, I'm looking more at your analysis and a little bit. This is not really considered so much of a research, a big research essay. Here. And what I'm asking you to do is choose one monster, and you can mention more than one text. I certainly do not expect you to go out and do any more watching of movies or shows or reading a book for this particular one, or this particular assignment, but you have to choose a monster that you are perhaps familiar with some of the texts. So another example would be vampires. Like Dracula is a mainstay, but there's other like vampire shows. I watched True Blood several years ago with my wife, and that's a great vampire text. So if you want, you can go back if you remember a movie or a TV series, and you can kind of look on Wikipedia or whatever and remember some of the details about it in order to do your analysis. But I don't expect you to go out, at least not for this assignment, and watch new material. If you want to, that's great, but you don't have to. But it is asking you to kind of do a little bit of research and talk about a few of the more iconic cultural texts, whether they be books, movies, or films, that particular monster that you are talking about has appeared in. And you certainly don't have to, like if you're going to do Frankenstein, if you're going to talk about every book and every film and TV series that it's ever been in, that monster, you would be writing a 20-page paper, right? That's not the point here. It's just to choose, if you chose Frankenstein, just a few of the texts and do a little bit of research on, when is the first time this particular monster appeared in a cultural text, and talk about that, and what are some of the main, films or TV series that it has appeared in since then. And then the main aspect, I need to change this. It's not 4 theses, it's 7. is I want you to do a couple sentences for each one of the 7 monster theory theses. And again, you'll find out about those 7 monster theory theses in the YouTube lecture series. We'll talk about all 7 of them. So you should, at that point, you would have already watched the YouTube lecture series and have some notes about each one of the 7 monster theses. And, some of these will apply more to your particular example of a monster, and others not so much. So, for example, with Frankenstein, one of the theses is the monster always dwells at the gates of difference. So, in the Frankenstein, the original movies and the book, Dr. Frankenstein is, kind of a weirdo and an outcast, partially because of his beliefs and what he's trying to do, but also Shelley is trying to write the monster character as an outcast as well. But that we realize, and certainly in some of the, in particular some of the movies, we realize that there's still a lot of humanity in the Frankenstein monster. So even though he dwells as something that's grotesque and you're afraid of, he also kind of is a representation of a freak who at the same time is still human and someone who's worthy of love and understanding, right? So some of these 7 theses will apply really well to your example and others don't. So if you're looking at the 7 theses and you're thinking, well, this one, I don't know what to say about it, then just write that and say, this particular thesis, I don't think it applies so well to my example of my monster, and here's why I don't think it does. So again, don't get too frustrated with this assignment. You're not. I'm not going to grade your analysis in terms of saying, oh, I disagree, or I thought you could have gone. I think that this thesis does apply. I just want you to make a good faith attempt to apply the 7 theses and to go through that type of analysis. And then, and again, this is going to be similar to last week where I want you to post by Thursday. And then after that, I want you to go back and reply to 3 peers, just like we did this last week. And just talk about, how you think that a couple of the theses and monster theses apply well, and any additional ideas that you have to help them with their analysis of this particular monster in popular culture. Okay, so, and that's it. So just again, two assignments, both of them due completed by Sunday, but for the post, do your initial post by Thursday, and then go back and read at least 3 other people. Similar to this last week, if you're doing this, the responses on Saturday or Sunday, be considerate and choose someone who doesn't have any replies yet. And then obviously when someone replies to your post, do them the courtesy of replying back and saying thank you, or in any kind of other thoughts that you had based on their comments, since they took the time to read your excellent post. Okay, so if you have any questions, just email me, and have a great week. I'm excited about monster theory, and we're going to use it as an opportunity later in the semester, depending on which films and or which TV series and music, and then at the very end, which cultural texts you choose to analyze as your final project. The monster theory can be very applicable, a great tool for you to do or to include in your analysis. So have a great week. If you have any questions, just send me an email. And if it's really snowy where you are, just stay at home and be safe. And if for some reason your Wi-Fi is kicked out for a whole week, which probably won't happen, but just let me know.